Welcome to the Fantasy Football Wire Podcast with your host, Calvin Wright.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Wire Podcast. Today is a fun episode. We're going to be going over some sleepers, some under-the-radar players. Bear in mind, this is May 14th, so nothing we say matters, but I'm glad you're here listening. I'm joined today by a guest of mine. If you have been listening to this podcast for a long time, you will remember a man named Aidan. It was on the first several episodes. He was the co-host before he tragically passed away. Well, we brought him back to life finally, and he is here today on the podcast. You all can just call him the man who stole Alvin Kamara from me. Aidan, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I remember that trade. That was probably my greatest fantasy football accomplishment ever.
For those who don't know exactly what happened, this is Alvin Kamara's. It was his rookie season, right? 2017 or something.
I think it was
Maybe
16.
16. But he was not supposed to be good. No one knew of him. He was back up to the then great Mark Ingram.
Yeah, and Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, and Adrian Peterson. And I was really high on him for no reason whatsoever. I just had this good feeling about Alvin Kamara. And he was kind of a joke between us. We kind of laughed about him. And I ended up drafting him very late. And Aidan convinced me before the season started to trade Alvin Kamara. Do you want to tell him who I got in return?
Dude, I don't even remember who you got. Who did
Lamar Miller.
Oh, yeah. And I got AJ Green in that trade too, and he ended up doing good.
I got Lamar Miller. For those of you who don't know, Lamar Miller is no Alvin Kamara, never was. And Alvin Kamara is still a top 10 running back, top 5 running back most weeks. And Lamar Miller is, selling insurance on Florida probably. But that's Aidan's history. And he also predicted something 4 years ago. So that is why you should trust him. But Aidan, give me your first under the radar player, your first sleeper pick.
I guess I'll go with my deepest sleeper at quarterback with Jared Goff.
Okay. Give us the reasoning, because I think a lot of people are on the verge of turning this show off.
Yeah.
I need to hear you give some backup for Jared Goff after last season.
No, it's definitely a pretty hot take. I think that the Lions have done a lot in this offseason and in the past offseasons to improve. They improved their offensive line through a lot of draft picks. They got Sewell in the last year's draft. They got DJ Shark in the offseason. They got Jameson Williams through the draft, who's also super talented.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And then they got
my favorite.
He went on an absolute tear at the end of last season. I had him on my fantasy team. He was like the second most consistent behind Cooper Kupp. But yeah, and they have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, who are both good running backs. DeAndre Swift is probably one of the most talented running backs in the league if he can stay healthy. So I think that Jared Goff has all of the tools, and it's literally just up to Jared Goff, which is considering he kind of blew it with the Rams, might be a lot to put in his hands. But I think that he's capable for the most part. I mean, he got to a Super Bowl, so he has the resume.
Looking back 2018, the quarterback 6 overall, the year before that, quarterback 12, year after that, quarterback 13, very respectable fantasy finishes. And even last year, he had several weeks where he was startable, 20, 18 points. It wasn't uncommon that he had a good week. It was just, there's a certain stench surrounding him called the Detroit Lions.
Right. I think that, we saw this with Matt Ryan and even Jalen Hurts throughout the years, where it's like their team doesn't have to do good for them to be good in fantasy. You can still put up a ton of points. And Russell Wilson has been like that in recent years.
Yeah. And I like that you bring up Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts, one of the best things about him was the garbage time. And if you're looking at a quarterback with the offensive weapons who will most likely have significant garbage time in every game of the season, that would be Jared Goff.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
going to
for
be
sure.
playing from behind in some high-scoring games. So I don't hate that one. I'll keep you on for maybe another episode because I do agree no one wants Jared Goff on their team. I haven't heard him brought up anywhere online about a feasible fantasy option. And of course, you're not saying spend a top 10 pick on him, but
No,
you
but
know, you can wait till after the draft and probably
yeah,
get him.
you can draft a defense and a kicker before this guy. He's not, he's not in high demand at all. And you could have a top 15, top 10 even quarterback on your hands.
Well, I will give you my quarterback sleeper, who's even deeper than Jared Goff. Marcus Mariota. I kind of like him, and I've talked about him before on the podcast. I kind of like Marcus Mariota. He can run the ball. The past few times we've seen him throw, it's been fine, and he has had some good fantasy finishes back when he was in Tennessee. They weren't outstanding, but they were respectable. He's currently ranked the quarterback 29, which is pretty much as low as you can be ranked, and he is set to be the starter for the Atlanta Falcons with, once again, several decent weapons. They made a lot of acquisitions in the offseason, getting wide receivers. They just traded today for Brian Edwards. And it's another team, Kyle Pitts is there. We forget about him because his rookie season was a little underwhelming. But I think Marcus Mariota, not that he's going to be a league winner, but I think that you can draft him pretty much after your draft, and he'll be serviceable. At least matchup to matchup, he'll be serviceable. He's someone that just needs to be on your radar. This isn't a league winner podcast. This is under the radar, and he's not he's off the radar. He's
Right.
What is that thing submarines have that makes them go in stealth mode? I don't know your submarine terminology.
No, I didn't research for this before the podcast.
should send you the memo. But I think that he's sonar, or is that what detects the submarines?
I have no clue. I thought that sonar and radar were like interchangeable terms.
The Under the Sonar podcast. Well, I think Marcus Mariota, if you ask, does Marcus Mariota play a full season? I say probably not. But if he does he finish higher than the quarterback 29? What would you say, Aidan? Do you think he finishes higher at quarterback 29?
Probably,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless he gets
all
hurt.
You need. Well, of course. But I kind of like him. Kind of. Don't take this out. I kind of like him. Don't say Calvin likes Marcus Mariota.
Right. Well, I'm sure that the other Calvin Ridley, is going to put a lot of money on his boy Mariota, carry him through the season.
So who is your next sleeper or under the sonar player?
So I guess we'll stay on the theme of quarterbacks. And this is one that I know that you agree on from past statements, and that's Jalen Hurts. He's still significantly underrated. He, according to Sleeper, his ADP is at 67.4. So that's like, what is that? In 10-man leagues, that's like the 6th round. And so if you're getting like a QB that can be like a QB like 3 or 4, probably by the end of the season. I would put him behind like Josh Allen, maybe Patrick Mahomes, if even that. Patrick Mahomes.
I don't even no. I think Patrick Mahomes will do worse than Hurts. He lost Hill.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is probably still above him if he stays healthy and they play well. But Jalen Hurts has everything that you want in a fantasy player because he's basically kind of like Lamar Jackson, like a quarterback running back hybrid.
And he has the weapons now. That was the big problem last season. He has the weapons. He has A.J. Brown, his wide receiver. He doesn't have to rely on Jalen Reagor anymore.
Right. And Devonta Smith, he was good last year. He wasn't great. He was a little bit underwhelming, but
but that's because we were comparing him to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, who have had, record-breaking rookie seasons.
Right.
But taking them kind of out of the picture, you zoom in on just his season. I thought, given Jalen Hurts' struggles at quarterback, the first time he's really started, the fact that what did Devontae Smith finish with? How many yards? It wasn't a bad season at all. He finished with 916 yards. That's respectable.
That's not bad.
So,
where do you think he play all games? Did Devonta Smith play all of the games?
Yes, he played all 17.
Okay.
Where is the lowest you think Jalen Hurts can finish? Because I have my answer. I want to hear what you think the floor is for Hurts.
barring no like significant injuries to like
Yeah.
him or his squad, I would say top 8 at least.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I would have him. And how high do you think he could finish? Do you think he could finish number 1 potentially? Everyone's healthy. Do you think he could?
I definitely think he could if Josh Allen absolutely just blows it.
But I don't know. I feel like if he has improved at all as a passer, he's top 3. If he's improved, because his passing still wasn't great last season, and he now is more.
It was atrocious.
If he's just improved at all, he's got to be good.
Yeah,
no,
I agree.
He's probably the number 1 player that I'm walking away from the draft with. I can't see myself not drafting him.
My only fear with Jalen Hurts is that they don't trust that is that like the Eagles organization doesn't trust him passing. And that can affect his confidence for one, but it also is going to lead them towards what they did towards the end of last season, which was go full run game only.
You mean like 80 runs a game?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have the running backs to do that is the scary part.
So here we go. That being said, why is Miles Sanders, CBS Sports, RB29 right now? How does that make sense? Because Miles Sanders, second most efficient running back last season, over 5 yards a carry. When he was healthy, he was their main guy. He can catch. And despite the Eagles running, he didn't have a touchdown. So we're going to see that positive regression. What is the rationale for Miles Sanders being ranked so low?
I would guess it would be the competition in the backfield and with Jalen Hurts. And because he was a little disappointing last season. I mean, he was drafted as like a top 15 or top 12 running back last year, and he was injured for a fair amount of it, which drops people's value, drops the ADP. But sometimes the fantasy football community likes to drop it way lower than it needs to be.
I mean, with the competition of the touches, yes, Jalen Hurts will take some, of course, but there weren't that many designed Jalen Hurts runs. It's not like he was taking them away. He scrambles.
Right.
And then Boston Scott has been there forever and hasn't done anything. So really what we're doing is saying we're scared of Miles Sanders because Kenneth Gainwell, the worst version of Miles Sanders.
Right. The Eagles, they don't have Jordan Howard anymore because he vultured a lot of touchdowns.
They don't have Howard. And I guess we're dropping him solely really the injury, which, I don't see people dropping Dalvin Cook. I still see people drafting Saquon Barkley. I see them drafting, I think, Christian McCaffrey is, a consensus top 3 running back. So we're forgiving the injury for those players. With Miles Sanders, nope, he gets dropped. Running back 29. I mean, that's so low.
It's significant. I mean, so like with Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey, the reason they don't get dropped so low is because their ceiling is so high when they are healthy that you can't drop them that low. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey's averaging 30 points a game and Dalvin Cook's averaging 20 points a game, that's better than what Miles Sanders has done. But it doesn't matter because Miles Sanders could put up 15 to 25, I would say, weekly.
I guess here's the kind of mental game I have to play. I go, okay, if Miles Sanders is averaging 4.5 to 5 yards a carry, which is, fairly normal for him, the Eagles are running a lot, and Miles Sanders plays 12, 13 games. Let's just say he only plays 13 games a season. Would you spend your 29th overall running back pick on Miles Sanders? Yes. Would I spend an earlier pick? Yes, I still would, because I think that the fear of injury is baked into that ADP, and I think it's way, way bigger than it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm glad to have someone a little bit on the Miles Sanders side of things, because every time I make a TikTok about him, people don't like it. They don't like hearing about Miles Sanders. Who's another sleeper you've got though? Okay,
so here is probably my biggest running back sleeper, and that's Leonard Fournette. I think that people have forgotten about him because, well, first of all, he was on the Jaguars and they were horrible. Actually, they actually made like the AFC. They made it far that 1 year. Yeah.
Blake Bortles.
But
Fournette, Buccaneers.
Right. He's been battling with Ronald Jones.
Rojo.
And that has taken away a lot of Fournette's. And on top of that, like his inconsistency with maturity, I guess. I don't know. It's like they didn't trust him. And it wasn't necessarily like his gameplay, it was more like his character, maybe. But it was like, I don't know. It was something with the coaching. I feel like that's gone now, though. And he's the only option. I mean, like, I think it's like Keyshawn Vaughn is like their backup running back now.
Yes.
So I think that's one aspect that's really appealing about him. And when he's good, he's amazing. So like, I mean, we saw
he
that
catches the ball too.
And I mean, he was good in the playoffs for the most part, and he was good at the end of the season when we saw him, like the offense almost run through him. And the fact of the matter is, Brady's getting old. Brady is up there in age. He can't throw it. Actually, he can. It was just kind of scary, but I'm just predicting a bit of a decline, and they're going to need to take the load off of Brady to an extent. And I think that Leonard Fournette is like the perfect outlet for the Buccaneers offense.
And talking about Brady, he's going to take a lot more of the checkdowns to him. That's going to, and in PPR leagues, that's what you want. I mean, remember James White for all those years. And yeah, the Ronald Jones thing was frustrating because Ronald Jones was irrelevant. And then if Fournette made a mistake, they're out of the game.
Exactly.
And you go pick up Ronald Jones, play him. He has a 99-yard touchdown run one week. Then he misses a block the next week, and he's done.
Exactly.
So you just kind of lose that anxiety, I think.
For sure. Hopefully
like that.
You do. the Buccaneers coaching is odd at times.
Keyshawn Vaughn is the next sleeper.
Yeah. So next on my list is Keyshawn Vaughn. He's a great player. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I really do think that Fournette could end as a top. I'll say 7 to be safe. Top 7 running back.
I think that's very fair. And I want to bring up my next sleeper is someone also on the Buccaneers, someone who is not appealing, but someone who I think is a good wide receiver who last season, when the main wide receiver on the team stepped away for personal reasons, which turned out to be he was playing the casinos, he stepped up and was a good fantasy wide receiver. Now he's with a better quarterback, Russell Gage. Russell Gage currently ranked wide receiver 47 on Fantasy Pros. I think that with Antonio Brown gone, Mike Evans has been banged up, and Chris Godwin coming off of that ACL injury, I think Russell Gage could really be leaned on by Brady early on in the season, and I think he could have some very solid weeks. I'm not calling him to be a top 15 guy, but I'm saying top 25, I think is very much in the realm of possibilities for Russell Gage. I think he's just so uninteresting to fantasy players because he's been in the league so long and he's never really done anything special. I don't think he needs to do anything special, but I think he can be your wide receiver 3, your flex option in a lot of weeks, and I think you'll be happy with it.
Yeah, I think he kind of he could kind of play like that, like Tyler Boyd comparison or Cole Beasley type of player, where it's like he's not the number 1 option, and he might not even be the number 2 option, but he's gonna. I mean, the offense is potent enough to support multiple receivers. And the Buccaneers probably have one of the best offenses in the league.
Here's Russell Gage week 12 on 18 points, 21 points, 10 points, 23, 4, 8, 27. That it's not perfect. He was inconsistent, but he showed me more than wide receiver 40, 47, 49. He showed me more than that. And now he signs with Brady, who needs another receiver. Especially Gronk's gone. We forgot that. Gronk probably isn't back.
True.
I think that Gage could really surprise some people.
Yeah, I mean, and not having Antonio Brown. I mean, Antonio Brown was a good receiver, generally speaking, when he was healthy and present.
He took a lot of targets, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. And, of course, he had a connection with Brady that Gage will have to develop. But I think it's definitely something that could definitely be found at some point in the season.
All right, who is your next under the radar player? We got time for a few more.
I'll go ahead and I'm just going to go to receivers. I think that Robert Woods has drastically slipped under the radar. He was injured for a significant piece of last year. He was a disappointment, actually. mostly due to the rise of Cooper Kupp, which was kind of unforeseen by most people. I mean, because Cooper Kupp was drafted in like the 5th or 6th round, or maybe 7th round in a lot of leagues last year. And Robert Woods was drafted in like the 4th or 5th, and now he's dropped his ADP. Is at 89 right now. Which if you can get like an 8th round pick that is like the wide receiver 1 on his team, with Tannehill's not the best, but AJ Brown was a top 10 receiver for a while. I think that Robert Woods has a good shot, and he doesn't have any competition on that Tennessee team other than like Derrick Henry.
Treylon Burks, but we saw I'm not fully bought in on Treylon Burks at all. And even with AJ Brown, it took a while for that rookie to develop. And I think Brown was a better prospect than Burks. But you're right. Robert Woods, before 2021, 3 consecutive top 15 PPR finishes. And it's almost like Miles Sanders, where we're just for some reason treating his injury so much differently than other players.
Right.
We're dropping him off the cliff because of the injury. No, I like that one. Now, do you think that the Titans will be a little more run heavy, trying to take the load off of Derrick Henry, or do you think that they will continue trying to ride Derrick Henry until he's completely run through?
I don't know how much Ryan Tannehill can. I don't know how much he can do. It was almost sad towards like the end of last season and into like the off season with his behavior. Even towards like their rookie quarterback. His name is slipping me. Malik Willis. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long he's going to have a job. I don't know if they're going to try to replace him this year, or if they're going to wait till his contract runs out, or what. He's older. So that's something to look at least. And if the Titans significantly slip in like their record, I think that, just plug the rookie and give him some experience and let it go.
Mm-hmm. If it's not going to be a playoff team.
Right.
Which it might not be. And yeah, I was disappointed with Tannehill because in 2020, he was a very viable fantasy option. But last season, he, really busted all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, week 14, a lot of people were picking up for the end of the season. He had some favorable matchups, but against Houston, 7 points. Against Pittsburgh, 7 points. Against Miami, 12 points. He just really disappointed. And yeah, I think that there's a reason they took Willis, but I still think, like you're saying, he's not the guy for the job probably, but I do agree with you. He will be able to support Robert Woods having a relevant season.
I think so. I mean, if Jared Goff could, then I think Ryan Tannehill is equal or better.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, I'm going to jump into one that I know you agree with as well. Travis Etienne, currently RB22. People are scared because of the injury. It was the Liz Frank fracture. I talked to a doctor. Nothing to worry about. It's not like an ACL injury where you want to avoid them like the plague the year after. He should be good to go. He should be normal Travis Etienne, which back in college was phenomenal. He was drafted early by this team to be an all-purpose weapon, to catch the ball, to run the ball. James Robinson ruptured his Achilles. People forget this. I had forgotten. James Robinson ruptured the Achilles at the very end of last season.
Right.
He's not even going to be ready week 1, most likely.
No, there's no way.
And no one recovers from that ruptured Achilles very well. I mean, do you remember, who was it on the Texans? He was the next big thing. D'Onta Foreman. Had the breakout game, ruptured the Achilles. Hasn't been heard of since. Marlon Mack, same type of deal. Cam Akers, I don't know how he recovered so fast, but when he came back, he kind of looked like crap, honestly.
Yeah.
2 yards a carry and 4 fumbles? So there's not a lot of reason to believe that James Robinson is going to come back and really be relevant. So I think Etienne is in line for a massive workload on the ground, a lot of checkdowns from a young, inexperienced quarterback, and a lot of designed pass plays as well. Are you all in on Travis Etienne like I am, or do you still have concerns with the Jacksonville Jaguars and their recent history of... Yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously quite a few obstacles that Etienne will have to overcome. It's interesting that you brought up Marlon Mack because I just
is he your next sleeper?
So no.
Okay.
But it is very similar to like the situation that Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack encountered on the Colts, where Marlon Mack tore his Achilles the year before. Jonathan Taylor was like the rookie that was supposed to be the next big thing. He came up, took a spot, and then the rest is history. And I kind of see that as possibly happening here, where Robinson just falls back into that running back 2 spot, and then they just go out, they write his contract out, and then he goes somewhere else. The Jaguars don't want James Robinson, which is just weird to me.
He's good, but he's not special. He's not that special playmaker. He's not fast. He's not strong enough. He's fine, but he's the type of the guy that in 3 years he's going to be, battling touches with Rex Burkhead or something.
Right. It's like the Steelers with James Conner too, where they replace him with who's the running back right now?
Najee
Harris, right?
He's fine, but not what they want for the future. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that Etienne, if he comes back and is healthy, could definitely end higher than a 51 ADP.
What's the highest you see him finishing running back in PPR leagues? What's the highest?
The highest, I would say it's just outside the top 12. I would say
12.
Yeah. I think that he is going to be like around like a Kareem Hunt kind of placement. Just because I don't have trust in that offense. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is quite ready.
See, I think he could finish top. I would put him 6, honestly. I think he could be that early Kareem Hunt. Remember Kareem Hunt back in the good old days?
Right.
I think that's what he could be. 2017 Kareem Hunt is what I can see Travis Etienne being. And it could be garbage, but he's going to have the volume, just like DeAndre Swift. Just like James Robinson and Leonard Fournette the years previously for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
People forget quickly that Leonard Fournette was a good running back. Well, a good fantasy running back the year before he got cut from Jacksonville. That gross 2019 season, he was still the running back 7 in PPR leagues because he got 107. He got not 176. He had 76 receptions for 500 yards. There just aren't that many weapons. I don't really believe in Christian Kirk, the $84 million man. So, have I convinced you that he can finish higher yet, or are you still a little lower?
I'll concede and say he could finish top 10, but
win up 2.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
There's a lot of running backs that I would still prefer over Etienne, but I think that Etienne has a really high ceiling.
Okay, Travis Etienne or Leonard Fournette?
Fournette.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Travis Etienne or James Conner?
I'm gonna go with Etienne.
Etienne or Elijah Mitchell?
Just because I don't. The 49ers like the committee, so I'll go with Etienne on that one.
And they like injuring their running back.